Yes, so obviously I think this has an impact, right? So in other words, what it is, in the US we often call it like a dog whistle. So in other words, it's not overtly racist, but what it is it drops a line in there that people can read kind of the subtext of it, right? And the subtext has certain connotations. So in the US, for example, in the 1990s, when we had debates about about welfare reform and welfare, they would often talk about welfare queens with 5 children, but still drive around in like a Cadillac, and all that was a dog whistle to be like, hey, white people, don't worry, we're talking about black people. But obviously they wouldn't explicitly kind of say it, because there's some constraints in any democratic society on exactly how explicit professional media would go. But fundamentally, I think a lot of this is just a reflection of broader shifts in society. So if you have a society where the populist right or racist sentiments are growing, it's going to have a manifestation in the media. Whereas if you have a society that has a stronger, more powerful left or anti-racist elements, then you wouldn't see that as much, especially in nominally independent media.
I'd say it's symbiotic. I'd say that the media provides those helps provide those answers. What I notice in British press is that they never mention race when it's a white person. Mm-hmm. So it's a man rapes someone, or it's a Pakistani man who rapes someone. It's like whites default don't mention it. And they only mention race when it is. And I think it just affects people's opinions.
But I think in general, the political climate is slightly better, despite the rise of Trump and everything else, around issues of immigration and these other issues. In the U.S., the main issue when you're talking about race is often racism and dog whistles and narratives built around discrimination, in particular of African Americans. So I would say that, in general, the experience of, let's say, Muslim immigrants and others in the United States, despite the rise of Islamophobia, is still probably more positive and also in media depictions than in Europe. But on the other hand, we still also have the systemic and longstanding discrimination against particularly black Americans. But I would say in general, the media climate, at least in print, is better. And where we do have some fair-mongering and we have lack of balance is kind of in our TV journalism sometimes. But I think on this particular issue, we're in a better situation now than potentially parts of Europe would be, even in the age of Donald Trump.
Yes, some of our newspapers are really banging the anti-immigrant drums. I think it's probably quite similar to Italy.
I think that obviously some of the coverage was somewhat negative, but in general it was fairly positive, and most importantly, they covered it a lot. So when we talk about these new social movements like Occupy, like Black Lives Matter, these are important movements, but they're actually mobilizing only a small percentage of the population. So they're actually mobilizing, in total, only a small group of activists. So they're relying on the media for amplification and for attention. And the most important thing is that the media actually covers it.
I think we need to challenge racist media. We need to write about how these kind of things aren't true. We need to correct it. But I don't, I wish I sort of knew what the answer was, because
we think that the solution to fighting racism is like directly just anti-racism. I think, of course, anti-racism is one element, but the only way you'll actually win over people is to actually propose an alternative.